T4, whatever it is Cp into just change in temperature. Okay, so that is the way we go about it. So when you one thing, as I told, because these are diverging, I always have long line for the turbine and short line for the compressor, because this is running at low temperature and this is running at high temperature. As temperature increase, the slope increase. That's why I always get positive work. Okay, and so here WC is equal to Cp into T2 minus T1, and QH, or heat added, is equal to Cp into T3 minus T2, and Wt is equal to Cp into T3 minus T4, and QL is equal to Cp into T4 minus T1. And if you see here, W net is equal to Wt minus Wc. If I write it QH minus QL also, you will get the same expressions, right? And so efficiency is equal to W net by QH. So that is the way. So what my main intention is, I have to get T1, T2, T3, T4. Okay. So when you solve the problem, mainly you will be given P1 and T1. These are the inlet conditions. You will be given the pressure ratio, which is R, P2 by P1. And you will be given the metallurgical limit, T3. Okay, these are the things will be given. So we start with P1, T1. And because pressure ratio, which is P2 by P1 is given, P2 can be obtained. And because isentropic relation, T2 by T1 is equal to P2 by P1 to the power of gamma minus 1 by gamma, I can get T2, and T3 is already given. And T4, if you want, again T3 by T4 is equal to P3 by P4 to the power of gamma minus 1 by gamma. And P3 is equal to P2, because it is isobar. Okay, so this gives me T4. So once I get all the temperatures, I can solve this. Okay, so in this way, a simple cycle can be solved. Okay, and how to increase the methods of increasing efficiency. So as I told, I want to increase the area. Like this, I want to increase the area. So already we have discussed compression. If it is at low temperature, my work required can be reduced. Okay, so because of that, I can split this compression into two parts. So after this we call it as LPC, low pressure compressor. After it is compressed to some intermediate pressure, and I will have an intercooler which reduces the temperature to the, again, T1. Okay, so whatever it is. So up to that I can reduce like this, and then the remaining thing I will compress it and come to the same pressure. Okay, so this is HPC. This is HPC. So like this I can do. This is intercooler. So in this way, I can have intercooler to reduce WC. So W net can be increased, because W net is equal to Wt minus Wc. If this is decreased, okay, so I can have increase in Wn. So in that way, I can increase the work output. But what about the efficiency? What about the efficiency? Can anybody tell me what happens to the efficiency in the intercooling cycle? What happens to the efficiency in the intercooling cycle? Okay, why it decreases? Because my output is increasing. Why it decreases? Due to more heat addition. Okay, heat addition is increased, but actually both numerator and denominator are increased. So how can you be sure that efficiency decrease? QH increase, W net increase, efficiency, both numerator and denominator increased. But you are saying the efficiency decreased. Can you justify which way you can tell? So I will tell physically in a simple manner. Okay, here this is a simple cycle, and to this I am adding another simple cycle, which is again this is a Brayton cycle. This is a small Brayton cycle. This is a big Brayton cycle. So I am adding a small Brayton cycle to the big Brayton cycle. So it depends. Suppose it has some efficiency. If this added cycle have less efficiency, overall efficiency decrease. If the added efficiency is more efficiency, then overall efficiency will increase. So if you see here, we know that eta, if you remember, this is eta is equal to 1 minus 1 by r power gamma minus 1 by gamma. Okay, so this is the expression for efficiency. So eta increases with r. Okay, so here I have large r, here there is small r. So efficiency of the added cycle is less. So I am adding a cycle to this which is having less efficiency, and so the overall efficiency gets decreased. Is my argument convincing? Is it okay? Yeah. Right. So this is the way it happens. So in this, so here what happens? W net increase, efficiency decrease, but this efficiency decrease in the efficiency is very small, and this decrease in the efficiency can be reduced. Means I can approach the simple cycle efficiency if I have more T. That is, if T3 is increased, right? So I can increase the efficiency and I can approach simple cycle efficiency. So actually the efficiency, like if this is simple cycle efficiency, and for different values of T3, I can have efficiencies like this, which are less, but it tries to approach this as T3 increase, right? So that is the way it happens. So same thing happens for the reheating also. So the other one is reheating. So like, because I want to decrease the temperature in the compressor to reduce the compressor work. In the same way, I told you, if the heat added, average temperature at which heat is added is increased, the efficiency increase. So I can split this turbine into two parts, right? And here this is HPT, and this is LPT, this is LPT, and this is reheater. Okay, so reheater in bit. So after some expansion, that gases I heat it again, and then the remaining pressure ratio I will expand in the second turbine LPT. So you can just look at this diagram that W net increased because area is increasing. In the same way, this is QH1, I can say. This is QH2. In the reheater, I have to supply some more heat. So QH, total H is equal to QH1 plus QH2. In the same way, WT is equal to WT1 plus WT2. So QH increase, WT increase. And so net output increase, Wn is equal to Wt minus Wc. Because this is increasing, W net also increase. And coming to the efficiency, again, what happens? So here again, if I draw a line here like this is a simple cycle, and this is a small Brayton cycle which is added, whose pressure ratio is less than the overall pressure ratio. And that's why the efficiency of this cycle is smaller than the big cycle, and so overall efficiency decrease. So that is the way it happens. And then coming to heat exchange cycle. As the pressure ratio increase, the difference between this and this increase. So this is the temperature which I am losing it to the atmosphere. So if that is used, because this is small, very small, so if I can use this and increase this temperature up to here, so my QH can be reduced. So instead of this total one, I can have only, instead of this whole thing, I can have only this much. So in that way, QH can be reduced. Output is same, QH is reduced. And eta is equal to Wn by QH. This is same. and this is decreased, and so efficiency increase. So in that way, we can have the this. So whenever I have intercooler, the difference between intercooler or reheater, right? Difference between T2 and T4 increase. So these two go away from each other, T2 and T4. So it is always better use heat exchanger with this reheater or intercooler, so that the efficiency, whatever loss in the efficiency, now we can have more increase in the efficiency. So intercooler plus reheater, intercooler plus heat exchanger, or reheater plus heat exchanger, or intercooler plus reheater definitely should have heat exchanger. So they increase the efficiency. Okay. So whenever these are there, so there will be more difference between T2 and T4. And so it is always better accompany that with heat exchanger. Okay. This is about ideal cycles. Always, as I told, whatever problem you have, suppose I have like this. Okay. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So maybe 9, 10, like this you will have. So you have to go from point to point. So you will be given pressure ratio R1, RC1 I can say, and pressure ratio RC2, and pressure ratio RT1, and pressure ratio. Okay, this need not be given, because once you know these two, this is obvious, right? You can find out. Because the total pressure ratio here and total pressure ratio is same. And so P1, T1 will be given to you. Okay, RC1 gives you P2, and again T2 by T1 gives RC1 to the power of gamma minus 1 by gamma, which gives RC1. And this will be given to you. If it is perfect intercooling, these two are same. So you can know T3 and P3. P2 is equal to P3, and T3 will be given to you. And again, knowing this pressure ratio, I can find P4, and the pressure ratio gives temperature ratio, and T4 I can be obtained. And T5 will be given to you. And P4 is equal to P5. Again, knowing RT1, if the pressure ratio is known, I can find out P6, and also the pressure ratio gives T6 also, because P5 by T6 is equal to RT1 P5 by P6 to the power of gamma minus 1 by gamma, which gives T6. So T6 is known. Again, you have to know what is the reheat temperature. This also will be given. T7 given. And P6 is equal to P7. Right? So again, once you know P6 and P7, I can find out this, because this pressure ratio is known. Actually, P8 is equal to P1. And so T7 by T8 is equal to T7 by T8 or P1 to the power of gamma minus 1 by gamma gives T8. So once I get all the temperatures, and just WC is equal to WC1 plus WC2, WT is equal to WT1 plus WT2, and QH is equal to QH1 plus QRH reheater. Okay, and okay, that's all. Okay, here one more thing. So this is to be obtained. So T8 actually QH1 is equal to T5 minus T9. This T9 is nothing but T8. Okay, this need not be obtained because it's a perfect heat exchanger. If eta equal to 1, ideal 1, I need not bother about it. Okay, this is about the ideal cycle, how to take care of that. Okay, somebody is asking about power turbine. Okay, there are two types. And if I have two compressors and two 2 turbines, or there can be only 1 turbine also, whatever be the configuration, right? And if all are connected, if all are connected like this is single shaft. So whatever previous page I have done, that is this type, okay? Okay, I don't know where that is. Okay, I have drawn like this. Always you draw the sizes properly. So HPC, HPT will be small, LPC and LPT are large. And if I have generator, so these two, these are all connected. This is single shaft. So I have to find out WT1, WT2, WC1, WC2, and Wn is equal to Wt minus Wc. Like that we can find out. So this is the network which I get from the generator. And so there are other configurations like maybe one compressor, 2 turbines I can have. And here there is generator. So this compressor, HPT, LPT. So HPT runs the compressor, LPT runs the turbine. So air enters like this, it comes to the combustion chamber, and it comes to the HP turbine, and from here it is goes to the LP turbine, and it goes out the exhaust. Okay, so this is what is called as twin shaft engine. And this total one is called gas generator, because this is not producing any power. It produces high enthalpy gases. That's why it is called gas generator. These gases only goes to the LP turbine, produces the power. And because this is producing the power, we call it as power turbine. Okay, this is the way it is. So when you solve the problem, we have to find out what is WC, and WHP turbine is equal to WC. Okay, so if it is, suppose this is 1, this is 2, this is 3, this is 4, this is 5, and this is 6, suppose. So WC is Cp into T2 minus T1. And WHPT is Cp into T3 minus T4. So from this, I can find out what is T4. And T3 by T4 gives me P3 by P4, and I can find out what is P4. So this pressure ratio of HP turbine is decided by what is the work that is needed by the compressor. Okay, I am taking ideal things. I am not writing compressor efficiency, turbine efficiency, mechanical efficiency, all those things. Okay, so some pressure ratio is spent here. The remaining pressure ratio, because overall pressure ratio is P2 by P1. This is overall pressure ratio. And so P3 by P4 into P4 by P5 gives me the overall pressure ratio. Okay, P3 by P4 is the first turbine pressure ratio, P4 by P5 is the final pressure ratio. Sorry, P5 by, so 4 and 5 are same. This is 5 and 6, P5 by P6, because there is nothing here. Okay, another thing here is these two turbines, HPT and LPT, they are called as aerodynamically coupled. They are not mechanically coupled by any shaft, but they are connected by the air. So it is called as aerodynamically coupled. Okay, so once you get P3 by P4, P3 by P4 into P5 by P6, and P4 and P5 are same. Okay, I can write like this: P3 by P4 into P4 by P6, and P6 equal to P1 because it is atmospheric. Okay, P6 equal to P1, and P3 is equal to P2. So P2 by P1 into, if I close this, so it is like that. So it is becomes P2 by P1. So here P3 by P4 is obtained from the turbine, high pressure turbine work. So I can find out what is the pressure ratio here. Once I know the pressure ratio, and I can find out the temperature ratio, and I can find out T6. So in this way, later we will see a problem also. So this is the way it is to be solved. Is the difference between these two understood? This gas generator turbine, power turbine, single shaft, twin shaft. Is that clear? Can I go to the practical cycles? Okay, this is what actually about the ideal cycles, right? And another simple tip I will tell, if you have any problem in the ideal cycle, suppose the expressions can be obtained like this. Just if I have a simple cycle, so here this is 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, and we take T3 by T1 as small t, and T2 by T1, which is P2 by P1 to the power of gamma minus 1 by gamma is equal to R power gamma minus 1 by gamma is equal to C. Okay, this is what we see. And when you take the efficiency and the compressor works, we take W by CPT1 like that. Okay. When you take that, so we'll get T2 by T1, T1 by T1, T3 by T1, T4 by T1 like that. So T1 by T1 is 1. T2 by T1 we have already seen it is C. And T3 by T1 is taken as T. And T4 by T1 is T4 by T3 into T3 by T1. T3 by T1 is small t, T3 by T4, this is 1 by C, this is T by C. So compressor work is C minus 1. And the turbine work, T minus T by C, that is T into 1 minus 1 by C. So like this we will get, this is the turbine work. And what is QH? T3 minus T2 means T minus C. Okay, so by T minus C. This becomes efficiency of the simple cycle. So in this way, I can find out like this. Suppose I take this again in another case. Suppose I have only intercooler. So this is again 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 like this. So T1 by T1 is 1, and T2 by T1, you know that for intercooling, the optimum pressure ratio is root C. Okay, so this becomes root C, and this is again, if T3 equal to T1, this is 1, this is root C, this is T, this is T by C. So turbine work is T into 1 minus 1 by C. Compressor work is 2 times root C minus 1. This is root C minus 1. This is root C minus 1. So 2 times root C minus 1. And the heat is T minus root C. So this becomes efficiency of intercooling cycle. Okay. Similarly, if I take a reheating cycle like this. So this is 1, this is C, and this is T, this is T by root C, this is T, this is T by root C. So turbine work is 2 into T minus T by root C minus C minus 1 by heat addition is T minus C, that is in the QH1, plus T into 1 minus 1 by root C. So like this, I can find out efficiency of the reheating cycle. Like that, it is very simple to remember the formulae, to understand the formulae and all. Okay, it is just to make you give some tips. I told this. Now coming to practical cycles. Okay. So these are taken from the Ganeshan only. At the end of the book, all the expressions are given. So these expressions are easy to understand, whatever I told now, right? So this is C minus 1 is compressor work, T into 1 minus 1 by C is the turbine work, this minus this is the output, right? Like that. So you have heat exchange cycle, reheat cycle, reheat and heat exchange cycle, intercooled cycle, intercooled. So all these things very easy to understand, okay? And now with intercooling and reheating, and intercooling, reheating, and heat exchange, all of them together. And so if you see the efficiencies, simple cycle efficiency, this one, and with intercooling cycle, there will be decrease in the efficiency. But for T is equal to 4 and T is equal to 3, it is drawn. For T equal to 3, it goes like this. For T equal to 4, it goes up. Okay. And similarly, intercooling cycle also, intercooling and reheating, you can understand this figure. And okay, if you have number of compressors with intercoolers and number of turbines with reheaters, this is the ideal cycle with infinite number of intercoolers and reheaters. And this will be like, it happens in this way. So this is equivalent to so if I take average of all this, it goes like this. Average of all this, it goes like this, right? So it's because it's infinite, it becomes like a line. It becomes like this, okay? So it becomes isothermal like thing. These two becomes isothermals, and these two are isentropics. Sorry, isobars. And this is what is called as Erikson cycle. There are two types of cycles, sorry. Okay, there are two cycles. One is Erikson cycle and another is Stirling cycle. These two has the same efficiency as Carnot cycle, right? So that we will discuss in the last chapter of thermodynamics. So this is what is called as Erikson cycle, which has Carnot cycle. So if I increase the number of intercoolers and reheaters, the efficiency of Brayton cycle approaches Carnot cycle. So that's why it is preferred to have that. But the practically, ideally, okay, everything looks nice. But having, I told you, heat exchangers, it occupies a lot of space and weight of the cost and everything. So number of compressors with intercoolers, number of turbines with reheaters, it increases the cost like anything. It goes beyond whatever is practical. Okay, but ideally, why it increases the efficiency? It is you can understand from this. Okay, coming to the practical cycles. Okay, practical cycles will have various things. One is it need not be the perfect gas. So first assumption in the air standard cycles or ideal cycles is we assume the air to be perfect gas. So air may not be perfect gas. Means CP and CV may vary and gamma also change. And it is observed that as temperature increase, right? As temperature increase, CP increase and gamma decrease. And it is found from experiments that if you take an average value of CP and gamma, as long as it is air, you take its average value as 1.005. Once it is burnt and if you have exhaust gases, you take the average CPG as 1.148. And gamma as air 1.4, gamma G is 1.333. You can see that gamma decrease for the gases. Okay, from this gamma by gamma minus 1 also you can find out. So this is the effect of the real gas. Okay, this is first thing we consider. And then efficiencies, because compressor, it needs more work because of the irreversibilities, and turbine, it gives only less work because of the irreversibilities. So compressor efficiency, if you take, okay, so this is the ideal, this is actual. So actual, ideal by actual, T2 dash minus T1 by T2 minus T0. T2 dash minus T01 by T02 minus T01. This is compressor efficiency. And because I am interested in the actual one, so T02 minus T01 is equal to T02 dash minus T01 by compressor efficiency. If I take T01 common, so T01 by eta C into T02 dash by minus T01 minus T1. And this is isentropic pressure temperature ratio. We know that T02 dash by T01 is P02 by P01 to the power of gamma minus 1 by gamma. So this is the way I get. I can straight away use this formula if I know eta C, because I know P01, T01 pressure ratio are given. Okay, gamma is known. Only thing is I have to use gamma A here, gamma A. Okay, this is the way I can find out what is T02. Is this formula okay? This is the formula we use to get T02. Knowing T01, T01 and compressor efficiency and gamma, I can find out what is T02. That is what I want. Okay, so T02 is obtained. In the same way, I am interested in T04, not T04 dash, which is ideal. Okay, so here turbine efficiency is the actual work by ideal work. The small one is actual work, big one is ideal work. So T03 minus T04 by T03 minus T04 dash. Okay, again I am interested in T04. So I will write this as T03 minus T04 is equal to eta T into T03 minus T04 dash. Okay, so here I take T03 out, so common. So it is 1 minus T04 dash by T03, and that is 1 again. This T03 by T04 dash is P03 by P04 to the power of gamma minus 1 by gamma. So that's what I will write here. This gives T3. T3 I can find out. Okay, and there is a direct formula here. Net work is equal to turbine work minus compressor work. Turbine work is Cp into T03 minus T04, that is Cp into this expression. Okay, this is what it is written. Minus compressor work, Cp into T02 minus T01, this expression is written here. And if you are given mechanical efficiency, I have to divide by mechanical efficiency, because this is the work needed to run the compressor, but because of the losses, transmission losses, I have to supply more work. So by which is less than 1, I have to divide this by mechanical efficiency, so that this is the work required by the compressor from the turbine, and that is to be reduced from the turbine work to get the net work. Okay, this is the formula. And then coming to, if you are asked to find out what is the mass flow and mass flow of fuel. Okay, so m dot f, mass flow of fuel, into calorific value. This is the heat generated by burning m dot mass flow. I will write this. Okay. Okay, m dot f is the, this is in kgs per second, is the mass flow of fuel into calorific value, which is kilojoule per kg. So this much of kilowatts I will get theoretically if there is complete combustion. But when it is burnt, some fuel will not be burnt properly because of improper mixing. So there will be combustion efficiency. So it may give only 98%, not 2% may be lost. So into eta B, this is combustion efficiency. Combustion efficiency. So this is the total heat generated. This is used to rise the mass flow of air, right, which is having CPG, and the rise in temperature may be T03 minus T02. Okay, in the combustion chamber, it is raised by T02 to T03, from T02 to T03. So this is the formula. Actually, it is not m dot A. If you want to write it correctly, I have to write here m dot A plus m dot F like this. Because in the combustion chamber, the total mass is m dot A plus m dot F. Okay, so this is the formula. And if I divide by m dot A on both sides, this is fuel air ratio, which is given by small f. F is equal to m dot F by m dot A. So F into CV into eta B is equal to, here this is 1 plus F CPG into T03 minus T02. Okay, if you know m dot f, m dot a like that, I can substitute and I can get whatever is the unknown. But usually, because m dot f is to be found out, which is unknown on both sides. So here what we do is, f is very small. I think I told you in the gas turbines, fuel air ratios are very, very low, very low. And if I write air fuel ratio, it is almost 100 approximately, means small f is 1 by 100, which is 0.01. So here, by adding some 0.01 to 1 will not change much. So I can neglect this compared to 1. In this way, I can simplify this. So F is equal to CPG into T03 minus T02 by CV eta B. So these two are known from the cycle calculations. Calorific value eta B are the data. CPG is known. I can find out fuel air ratio. So if you know mass flow of air, right? So this is m dot f by m dot. So m dot a into f is equal to m dot f. You can find out mass flow of fuel. So that is the way you have to find out. Or if it is not given, so this much of fuel air ratio, that is this much of fuel per 1 kg of air, like that you can say. Okay. And then you have what is called as SFC, specific fuel consumption, means mass flow of fuel per unit power. Per unit power. So power is equal to m dot a Wn. Wn is kilojoule per kg. This is per kg. This is kgs per second. So this is in kilowatts. So this is in kgs per second. Okay. So I will get kgs per kilowatt seconds. Okay. This is kgs per kilowatt second. So this can be written as I can multiply by 3600 and m dot f by m dot a Wn kgs per kilowatt hours. And m dot f by m dot a is small f. So SFC is equal to 3600 f by Wn. Okay. So f is calculated in the previous page. Wn is already calculated from the cycle. I can find out SFC in kgs per kilowatt hours. Okay, that is the way I can find out SFC. And efficiency, thermal efficiency or cycle efficiency, this is already known, Wn by. So here, overall efficiency, if I want, Wn by, okay, I can write like this. Output power by input. So what is the power that is given? M dot A by Wn is the power that is developed, and the input is mass flow of fuel into calorific value. This is the input, total input without any losses, because this much of fuel I am spending, this much of calorific value. This is the thermal efficiency of the cycle. So if again m dot f by m dot a is written as f, so thermal efficiency is equal to Wn by f into Cv. Okay, this is the way we get it. So I have written in the slide all those things. So here I have explained. Okay, so this is what is that from which I get f, and f is used to find out SFC, and efficiency is given here. Okay, so this is the way we can solve the problem. Okay, these are the formulae we have to use, and it depends on what is the complexity of the cycle. I can have intercooler, I can have reheater, I can have heat exchanger, there may be pressure losses. So here you can see the pressure losses, right? So here, first from after compressor, it enters the heat exchanger. The air enters the heat exchanger. So there will be some pressure loss, delta P HEA, heat exchanger on the air side. Then it goes to the combustion chamber, where again there will be some pressure loss. Okay, so delta P Cc. So P03, if I want, P02 minus delta P HEA plus minus delta P Cc. So I have to remove those. Okay, delta P Cc, in some books it is given delta PB burner. Okay, like delta PHA. And at the exit side, actually, as I told, it should go to P01, but because it has to go to heat exchanger, it cannot expand up to P01. The P04 will be more than P01. So P04 is equal to PA or P01 plus delta P HEG, delta P heat exchanger on the gas side. Okay, this is the way I have to use the pressure losses that are there in the heat exchanger and the combustion chamber. Any doubts in this practical cycle discussion? Any doubts? Okay. I didn't cover only that. Okay, I will tell you. Okay, so I told about perfect gas assumption. I relaxed, and isentropic compression, compression, and isentropic expansion. I have introduced efficiencies, and isobaric combustion and isobaric heat loss. Now pressure losses are added, and so another thing we have assumed is d of Ke plus d of is equal to 0 and d of Pe is equal to 0. This is we have assumed. We have delta Q is equal to dH d of Ke. Okay, d of Pe definitely is 0 is equal to delta W. Like this we have written. But normally in the turbines and compressors, the velocities are very large and I cannot eliminate this. So if I write Q12, this is H2 minus H1 plus C2 square minus C1 square by 2 is equal to delta W. And this H plus C square by 2 is called what is H naught, which is stagnation temperature. Means suppose it has some enthalpy and some kinetic energy. This is the energy of the fluid. Okay. Suppose without any loss, I reduce the temperature, reduce the velocities to 0. So what is happening? This kinetic energy gets converted to enthalpy because H plus C square by 2 constant. Okay, so H1 plus C1 square by 2, suppose, is equal to H2 plus C2 square by 2. This is at station 2. From here to here, it is flowing at 1 and 2. At 2, I make the velocity 0. So I will have maximum enthalpy here. And that enthalpy is called H naught. Okay, so H naught is CPT naught. So what we are doing is now DH, okay, this DH plus D of KE, we write it as DH naught, not DH only. So delta Q is equal to DH naught plus delta W, or this is CP DT naught plus delta W. So if I want delta Q or delta W, I have to use not DT but DT naught to consider the change in kinetic energy also. Is that clear? Mahendra? Okay. Mahendra, is it clear? Right. Okay, what is bleeding? So bleeding means, as I told in the steam turbines Rankine cycle, that is tapping some steam from the during the expansion. That is called the bleeding. And here, why it is taken? Okay. Wait. Bleeding is done in the expansion or compression here? 1 minute. Where the bleeding is done actually during compression or expansion? In the problems, when you get bleeding during expansion or compression, then when is it bleeding happens? Do you remember? During compression, right? Okay. So here, what we do is we bleed some air during compression to cool the turbine blades and turbine disc. Okay, turbine discs and turbine blades. To cool these, we take some of the air, because why we take normal atmospheric air, if you want to send, it will not circulate. I have to send with some high pressure air, and that's why during compression, whole compression, I take some of the air and I send it. So that's what the bleeding is. So because of the bleeding, the amount of air that goes into the compressor and the amount of air that goes to the combustion chamber are different. So here m dot A is equal to m dot A minus bleed air. And sometimes that bleeding air, whatever is taken during expansion, it may be added to this, right? So it is taken at some P intermediate pressure. At that intermediate pressure, it is mixed with the expanding air here. So here, when you calculate the powers and all, you have to use the mass flow properly. What is the mass flow in the compressor? What is the mass flow in the combustion chamber? If it is mixed after some expansion, what is the mass flow in this turbine? What is the mass flow in this turbine? So here there will be full mass flow. Here there will be less mass flow in combustion chamber and the first turbine. Like that, we have to include the bleeding wherever it is given in the problems. Is that clear? Is that clear about bleeding? Okay. So these formulae you have to remember. And suppose we take a particular problem, which is a power turbine problem. I have taken it from Ganeshan or Saranamuthu. Okay, so one of the books. Okay, here we have to find out SFC and efficiency for a simple cycle gas turbine with a free power turbine given the following specifications. So based on the data, you have to decide what the cycle is. You have to know the schematic, how it is, and what is the TS diagram. Mainly, you have to be clear about the TS diagram. And we have power turbine is there. So there are two turbines. Okay, and the first turbine, and there is no reheating in between. Okay, that is important. If there is reheating, so it goes up and again comes like this. Okay, there is no reheating. So once after this expansion, there is another expansion. So this is ideal one, this is real one. From this is ideal one, this is real one. So this is the way. So you have to start with, suppose this problem, we start with P01, T01. This is 1 bar and 288. Okay, I will tell you step by step how to go. First, you have to calculate not to dash. Okay, you can use either the direct expressions. You need not remember those direct expressions. T02 minus T01 is equal to that expression is there. Right? You need not remember this expression. If you don't want to remember, I can go point by point. First not 1, then not 2 dash. Okay, P02 dash is pressure ratio into P01. Pressure ratio is 12. So 12 into P01, 12 into 1, 12 bar is here. Okay, then T2 dash by T01 is P2 dash by P01 to the power of gamma minus 1 by gamma. I can find out T02 dash. So once I get T02 dash, use compressor efficiency, which is 0.86. So T02 dash minus T01 by T02 minus T01 is 0.86. So I can calculate what is T02. So once this is over, then I have to go to P03. So no pressure losses here in the combustion chamber. So P02 is equal to P03, same. And T03, I think will be given 1350 Kelvin. Okay, so this is given. Now I have to calculate this, not 4. So how to calculate that? Because here in the HP turbine runs the HP compressor or compressor. Okay, this turbine runs the compressor. First, I have to find out what is the compressor work. What is compressor work? Cp into T02 minus T01 is the compressor work. If I am given a mechanical efficiency is given, so Cp into T02 minus T01 by mechanical efficiency is equal to first turbine work, which is Cp into T03 minus T04. So this gives me T04. Okay, so once T04 is known, I have to get P04 also, because to calculate this pressure ratio, I have to know P04. How to get P04? T03 by, so to get T04, I have to get T04 dash, ideal one. So eta T, turbine efficiency, which is given here, is 0.89, is equal to Cp in T03 minus T04 by T03 minus T04 dash. So I have to calculate T04 dash. Once I get this, this temperature ratio gives me pressure ratio. P03 by P04 is T03 by T04 dash to the power of gamma by gamma minus 1. That is the way I have to calculate P04. P04 is this, okay, because both pressures are same. So once I know that here P05 is obtained, exhaust pressure loss is there. This is not shown here, but there is exhaust pressure loss 0.03. Means I cannot expand it to 1 bar, which is actually atmospheric pressure. I can expand only up to 1.03 bar. So P04 is known, P05 is known. So pressure ratio is known. So I can calculate this temperature ratio, isentropic temperature ratio. So T05 dash can be obtained. T04 by T05 dash is equal to P04 by P05 to the power of gamma minus 1 by gamma. So I get T05 dash. Then this turbine efficiency, T04 minus T05 by T04 minus T05 dash gives me T05. So once T05 is calculated, I know all the temperatures. Okay. So compressor work, anyhow, this is taken by this. And only this is the power turbine which gives me work. So Cp into T04 minus T05 is the power output. This is the power output. And Cp into T03 minus T02 is the heat input. So I can get the efficiency. So you can see the problem that is done here. So first you can calculate T02 and turbine compressor work means the work required by the turbine that runs the compressor. This is Cp T02 minus T01 by mechanical efficiency gives, this is the first turbine work, which is equal to Cpg into T03 minus T04. So I can find out T03 minus T04. Okay. And P02 is 12 minus 1.06. I think 1.06. Yeah, combustion chamber pressure loss is 6% of compressor delivery pressure. Compressor delivery pressure is 12 bar. 6% of it means 12 into 0.06. So that is last here. So 12 minus or 12 into 1 minus 0.06 gives me P03. Sorry, P03 this is. Okay. So T03 by minus T04 I got. So this expression I have from which I can get P03 by P04. So I can get T04 and P04. And so P05 is 1.01 plus 0.03. And I can get the second turbine pressure ratio. Okay, this is done in a direct steps, but as I told you, go point by point and you can do it. So the turbine power turbine work is equal to Cpg into T04 minus T05. This is the turbine work that is developed, but at the generator, again, we will lose something because of transmission efficiency. So into eta m. Okay, so this gives the power turbine output at the generator. Okay, this is the way we have to solve the problem. Is that clear? Okay. Okay, there may be another, that is whatever we discussed is the twin shaft engine. Okay, so here the following data apply to a gas turbine employing a separate power turbine. Okay, again, a separate power turbine. I think you can see this. It is open cycle stationary plant to have one intercooler, one reheater, and a regenerator. On one shaft, the high pressure turbine drives the low pressure compressor. On another shaft, the low pressure turbine drives the high pressure compressor and the load. So here you have to read the description properly. So here he says HPT is run by LPC, and LPT runs the high pressure turbine, high pressure compressor, and the load. Okay, so this is power turbine which also runs the low pressure turbine. So the following data may be assumed. Okay, this is the way it is given. So when it is given like this, so here, so you have to see here. So you can calculate this because P01, T01 will be given. The first ambient temperature, the pressure ratio in each stage compression is given. So I can calculate this. Efficiency also is given. So I can calculate N07, N2, all these things I can calculate. And now, because it is given that on one shaft, high pressure turbine drives the low pressure compressor. This is the high pressure turbine. This runs the low pressure compressor. So I have to equate this work and this work. And mechanical efficiency is not given. So Cp into T07 minus T01 is equal to Cp into T03 minus T09. So I can calculate T09. And then using turbine efficiency, I can calculate T09 dash. Okay, T09 dash once you calculate, this temperature ratio gives me the pressure ratio. So P09 and P010 I can calculate. Okay, that is the way I can calculate here. Then if there is no pressure loss here, pressure loss is there. Pressure loss in each heater and each side regenerator. So pressure here will be equal to P02 minus, there are two pressure losses are there. One is in the reheater and also, in the combustion chamber and the heat exchanger on the air side. Both are 3%. So total 6% will be lost. So P02 into 1 minus 0.06 gives me P03. Similarly, P09 into 1 minus 0.03 gives me P10. Okay, so here also. And here also P01 plus, so if I know this P04, 0.03 after times that, I have to add to this so that I can get P04. Okay, so that is the way. Once I get all the temperatures here, again effectiveness of heat exchanger is given. Regenerator effectiveness. Regenerator effectiveness is equal to actual temperature rise by ideal temperature rise. Actual temperature rise is T02 minus T02, T05 minus T02. Ideal temperature rise is T04 minus T02. So from that, because I know T04, I can calculate T05. Once I calculate T05, the heat added is T03 minus T05 here, and T10 minus T09 here, total heat addition. And output is Cp into T10 minus T04 is the output from the LP turbine, which runs HPC. Okay, so I have to subtract this work to get the net work. Okay, so that is the way I have to do. You can see the problem. I think it is from the Ganeshan. You can see how it is solved. Okay, but the procedure is that just go point by point and find out all the temperatures. Then you can get everything. Is that okay? If everything is okay, I close this gas turbine cycles now. Okay, usually that need not be bothered mass flow values, because as I told, compared to mass flow of fuel, mass flow of air, mass flow of fuel is very small. So if I have 1 plus f that the fuel air ratio is very small, and I neglect. So that you need not worry. Only bleeding problem, if you have, there you have to be careful. How much mass is flown through each? If mass flow of two compressors are there, suppose I am bleeding some air between two compressors. So mass flow of air from the first compressor is full. In the second compressor, I have to reduce the bleed air. In the same way, again, if it is joined or combined in the turbine side after the first turbine, so mass flow in the first turbine will be less, and mass flow in the second turbine will be full, like that. Okay, there may not be such complicated questions asked, but to understand the procedure, that is that. Is that okay? Okay. So anything else in the cycles you want? Shall I proceed to compressors? Okay, centrifugal compressors. First, you have to know how it looks like. Okay, this is some figures I have taken, and this is the impeller. This is the impeller which is rotating, and outside this is diffuser. These blades are attached to the casing. Okay, these won't rotate. Sorry. This is inducer, and this is impeller blade. Okay, this is the whole one is impeller. This whole one is impeller. These are diffuser vanes which are attached to the casing. Okay, like this. And this is volute casing. Okay, whatever air enters at the center. It first flows through inducer and then the impeller, and it comes out and it goes to the diffuser, and then it goes to the volute, like this. And if I see the practical thing, real one, so this is the impeller which rotates. So this part is called as the inducer, and inlet, that is eye of the impeller. This is called as eye of the impeller, which includes inducer. Okay, so inducer blades are highly twisted because so the always the blade angle should match with relative velocity angle. So if you take the inlet triangle, the relative velocity changes because u changes, blade velocity changes, relative velocity changes, and its angle also changes. And this is to be made in such a way that V is smoothly, that is a fluid smoothly enters. So that for that purpose, this is highly twisted. And this is impeller, and then this is diffuser. Okay. So these are different figures. And the distance between the impeller and the diffuser, there will be some distance. This is called vaneless space. Vaneless space. And this is called vaned diffuser. If these vanes are not there, just area increases. That is called as vaneless diffuser. So these vanes may be there or may not be there. If you want to have high efficiency, I should have vanes, but it increases the expenses also. Okay, this is like the left side view, which is given on the right side. Okay, so this is inlet, and this is the eye of the impeller. Okay, this is the eye, and this is the inducer up to here, which is the inducer, and this is this, and the diffuser is the small one is the diffuser. If you see from this side, this is only this much of thickness. Okay, this much of thickness, I will have the diffuser, and this is the volute. And you draw the volute, so bottom side, this spherical one should be smaller, and okay, it depends. Here, this is larger one, this is smaller one. Okay, so you have to show that corresponding change here. Okay, this is the way it happens. So air comes, it enters the eye of the impeller and goes through inducer, where the flow direction is changed from axial to radial gradually, and then it enters the diffuser and then to the volute casing. Okay, so here, because work is given to the impeller, there will be increase of the pressure and also increase of kinetic energy. Both pressure and kinetic energy increases. I am interested in increase in the pressure only. So kinetic energy I don't want. So I can utilize that kinetic energy for further increase of pressure. That is done in the diffuser. So there will be some pressure rise in the diffuser, some pressure rise in the impeller. Total pressure rise is the pressure rise of the compressor. Okay, so the pressure rises when area is increased. So even if without diffuser blades also, there will be increase in the area, the circular area. You know that this is smaller and this is larger, so it expands. Or sorry, diffuses. It diffuses. There will be decrease of kinetic energy and increase of the pressure in the diffuser area. Okay. So that is the way it will be. And there is another thing called as IGV. This is called as inlet guide vane. Before this impeller, I will have what is, I may have, okay, sometimes, which is called as inlet guide vane. Okay. If you are expecting a shock to occur at the entry of the impeller or the compressor, then I have to use a inlet guide vane which avoids the shock. How it avoids, we will discuss in the discuss later. Okay, these are centrifugal compressors may have backward curved vanes or forward curved vanes or radial vanes. Okay, suppose this is shaft. So if it is rotating this way, and suppose if the blades are bent this way. So it is rotating in the clockwise direction. Blades are bent in the opposite direction. That's why it is called backward curved. So this can be radial. So this can be bent in the direction of rotation. Right. So this is forward curved. Okay, always mainly all people will have problem of velocity triangles. I will tell you some tips for the velocity triangles. Okay, all velocity triangles will have a base. Base represents tangential direction. Base of the triangle represents tangential direction, and u will be in the tangential direction only, because the u blade speed is always in the tangential direction. And another thing you remember is we have three directions: axial, radial, and tangential. In all the triangles, this is definitely will be there. And out of axial and radial, only one will be there. Okay. As I told, if I take axial compressor, it enters axially and leaves axially. So inlet axial, exit axial. In both triangles, no radial. No radial. If I take centrifugal compressor, it enters axially and leaves radially. So at the inlet, no radial, only axial. At the exit, only radial, no axial. This you have to remember. Okay. And always the velocity triangle will be something like this. For compressor, I will get acute triangles, and for turbine, I will get obtuse triangles. Okay, this you have to remember. And so mainly because compressors will be of low pressure ratio, and turbines are high pressure ratio. This is also because in compressors, pressure increase, right, from inlet to exit. This is what is called as adverse pressure gradient. So which tries to spoil the flow or oppose the flow or separate the flow. I don't want that. So because of that, I will have low pressure ratios in compressor. If I have turbines, pressure decrease along the flow. This is called as favorable pressure gradient. You will know about this in fluid mechanics gradually. Favorable pressure gradient. If pressure gradient is favorable, the flow behaves nicely, right? If everything is comfortable, like I'm going with a cycle, if I have favorable pressure gradient, I can pedal it very fast. Okay, so because of that, I can have high pressure ratios. So like in the gas turbines, if I have some 30 pressure ratio, I can achieve it maybe in 2 to 3 turbines. But compressors, it may need some 10 to 15 compressors. 10 to 15 stages, right? So that is the way you need. And because of this low pressure ratio, I will have acute triangles for the velocity triangles. And here, because of high pressure ratios, I will have obtuse triangles like this. Okay, these are the basic things you have to know. Okay, now I will have tangential direction like this. Okay, and I will have an acute triangle. This may be inlet or exit. It is left to you. All triangles will be like this only, right? And this altitude, this is axial or radial. It depends on whether it is inlet or exit. If it is inlet, it is axial for centrifugal, right? For centrifugal. So inlet, it is axial. If it is exit, it is radial. Okay, so that is the way we use. And so we will get one side absolute velocity, one side relative velocity, and the base will be u. Okay, this is always u. And one thing you remember, absolute velocity of the fluid is equal to relative velocity of the fluid with respect to the blade plus blade velocity. Okay, if I want to know the blade velocity, the flow velocity, absolute velocity is equal to the vectorial sum. This is vector sum of v. I don't know what are the terminology. What is that you use for relative velocity? What is for absolute velocity? Can you tell me? What notation for absolute velocity and relative velocity? Because in books they use different velocities, the terminology. Relative velocity W, absolute velocity. No, not C is relative. Okay, relative velocity W, absolute velocity V or C. Okay, don't remember? C absolute. Okay, I will use W and C then. Just you have to adjust yourself. Okay, so then I will write W here. Absolute velocity is equal to relative velocity and blade velocity vector sum. Okay, so here this may be impeller may be down or up. Okay, if it is if I draw like this, the flow is coming downwards. If I draw upwards, the flow is going upwards. So whichever way you want. So you have to decide some directions, no problem. Okay, so now you have to see that W plus U equal to C. Okay, so 2 are to be added. Now you decide direction. Okay, U left side or right side. Okay, suppose if you take U to the right side, then to satisfy this, this must be W and this must be C. Now W plus U equal to C. Okay, now W plus U, I will get C. That is the way I decide the velocity triangle. Okay, and so it will have two components. Both of them will have two components, a tangential component and axial component. Okay, so because this is, if it is axial, it is axial component. If it is radial, it is radial component. So this height of the triangle will be CA or WA if it is axial, or CR and WR if it is radial. In the same way, tangential component, again, it depends on what terminology you use. So suppose some books it will write CT, tangential, CW, C will component, C theta. Okay. So these are the different terminology they use. For tangential, in some books they use T, some books they use W, some books they use theta. Do you remember what notation we use? You use? Okay, V relative velocity, C absolute velocity. First I have written right then. Okay, easy. Lakshmi Rama is right. And again, you tell me what is the suffix for tangential component, T or W or theta? CT, yeah? Okay. Then, okay, then I will write V only for this. Okay. Then this component, this is tangential component, this is VT. And this component, this is CT. And also the angles will be given to you, and the relative velocity angle is always beta, and absolute velocity angle, again notation will be alpha for this. Okay, and relative velocity angle is equal to blade angle, because the blade faces the flow at some angle, so it has to go smoothly on the blade. So blade angle should match with relative velocity angle. Okay, so this is the way your inlet triangle or exit triangle will be. Right? It can be inlet, it can be exit. Okay, depending on the problem, sometimes CT may be 0, sometimes VT may be 0, right? Sometimes it depends on the problem, right? But the general triangle is like this. Okay, now we will see what happens. In the previous slide, I think, I will go. Yeah. Now, if I go to backward chord vane, radial vane, and forward vane, and so as I told, everywhere the base is horizontal. This is U. Okay. So what is the direction? This is moving clockwise. Clockwise means to the right side. Okay. It is moving to the right side. Now, relative velocity angle is equal to the blade angle. So blade, it is going like this, right? So blade, it is flow moves like this. So this is the way the V will be. V will be in this direction, relative velocity direction. And V plus U equal to C. So this will be C. Okay, this is the way my triangle will be. This is radial direction, because now it is going radially out. So this is radial. So this is CR or VR. And this is CT. And this is VT. And this is beta 2. I will write beta 2 because it is at the exit, beta 2, which is less than 90. Backward chord vanes less than 90. And now, suppose if I take radial vane, So V plus U. So at this end, I have to add like this. So beta 2 is 90, and this is V2. I will write V2, C2, U2. Okay. CR2, VR2, CT2, VT2. So beta 2, U2, V2, and C2 will be this. Adding these two. So beta 2 is 90. And if it is forward Cordwain, at this, it is to go in this way. So it goes this way. This is V2. So C2 will be this. So this is beta 2 greater than 90. Okay, this is the way I have the triangles. Okay, so here, as I told, obtuse triangles will have large pressure rise, but unfortunately, this gives an unsteady flow. This gives unsteady flow. So we never use forward Cordwains. We use radial vanes or backward Cordwains. And radial vanes are used for very high-speed machines. Because low-speed machines, what happens is the centrifugal force will try to straighten the blade, and there will be large bending stresses, right? So because it is moving in the opposite direction, right? So it hits it, and because of the centrifugal force which is trying to go radially out, so it tries to have large bending stresses here. So for very high-speed engines, we use radial one. So high speed normally in aircrafts. In aircrafts, we use this. And backward Cordwains has one advantage, which has a self-cleaning effect. If something muddy like things or dusty like things, if I use it, centrifugal force, because of that, it slides over this and just goes away. But here it hits the mud and all, so it gets affected. So clean air is to be used here. So aircraft, it uses clean air, and so I prefer in aircrafts. But industrial cases, I use backward Cordwains. And so usually we have triangles like this. But in aircraft turbines, though the shape is like this, because of, I don't know whether you discussed about the slip. Okay. So I will not go in detail about the slip. Because of the slip, here U2 is equal to CT2 and VT2 is equal to 0. Okay. Here CT2 is less than U2. Here CT2 is greater than U2. Okay. And here, because of the slip, actually the triangle gets modified like this. And CT2 gets reduced. Actually, CT2 should be equal to U2, but now CT2 will be less than U2, and that is given by slip. So CT2 is equal to sigma U2. Slip is less than 1 or approximately usually 0.9. So the tangential component gets reduced because of slip. And so because of that, again, this also becomes a Q triangle like this, not right angle triangle. So this is basically like this. So it will be also in this way, it gets modified because of the slip. Okay, this is the way we get the exit triangle. And coming to the inlet triangle, so at the inlet, it is axial. So tangential will be like this. I am rotating this, actually, it will be like this. So if you rotate it 90 degrees anti-clockwise, I get like this. Okay. And so here, this is CA equal to CA1 equal to C1. Okay, there is no tangential component. It enters axially. And so V plus U equal to C I have to get. So I can draw either this way or I can draw downwards, whichever way it is. So this is V1 and this is U1. Because there is no CT1. CT1 is not there. And here what happens is C1, though it is small, V1 is far greater than C1 because of U1. So sometimes even if C Mach number of C1 may be some points 7 or something, but Mach number with respect to V1 may become more than 1, and it may create shock at the entry of the impeller. So because of that, what happens is we try to use what is called as IGV, inlet guide vanes. So if I use inlet guide vanes, instead of going axially like this, it goes like this. It introduces some whirl component CT1. This is called as pre-whirl. And this is written as theta. Theta is equal to angle of pre-whirl. So if you remember, W is equal to U2 C theta 2 minus U1 C theta 1. Okay. So if C theta 1 is 0, this will not be there. If there is no inlet guide vane, right? So C theta 1 will be 0 and I will get this. If there is inlet guide vane, okay, this is T2, CT2 minus CT1. If there is inlet guide vane, I have to use both the terms. So if there is no inlet guide vane, if I have no inlet guide vane, this UT equal to C theta, CT2 and CT1 is 0. So it depends again, as I told, it will be acute triangle. If I don't have IGV, it will be right angle triangle. Okay, like that I will get. And so if you see in the problems, W is equal to U2 CT2 and CT2, as I told, sigma U2 with the slip. So W is equal to sigma U2 square. Okay, this is the formula normally used in the book. There is another thing called as power input factor. So power input factor, it is given some symbol psi. So what happens is, because of some friction that is going in the disk and all, I have to supply a little bit more work than that is needed by the compressor. So this psi is approximately 1.04, some 4% extra work I have to give. So I have to multiply this by this. So W is equal to sigma psi U2 square. Okay, so this is W, the work needed by the compressor. This is nothing but Cp into T02 minus T01. Okay, so if I have like this, and so U2 is equal to pi D2 N by 60. D is the diameter of the impeller, N is the RPM. I can find out U2. And the sigma, as I told, it is approximately 0.9. If it is given, you use it. Otherwise, you don't use it. This is 1.04. And T01 given and Cp known. So you can find out T02. And P01 also is known. P01 will be data. So I can find out what is P02 by P01. P02 by P01 is equal to, sorry, P02 by T01 equal to T02 dash, right? Gamma minus 1 by gamma. So first I have to use eta t. Eta t is equal to T02 dash minus T01 by T02 minus T01. Okay. So T02 minus T01 is obtained here. From this, I can get T02 dash, and from this, I can get pressure ratio. So if I simplify in a single formula, it will be something like this. T02 minus T01 is equal to sigma psi U2 square by Cp. And T02 dash minus T01 is equal to C. Okay. Eta C sigma psi u2 square by Cp. And if I divide by T01 on both sides, T02 dash minus T01 by T01 is equal to eta sigma psi u2 square by Cp T01. This is T02 dash by T01 minus 1. So T02 dash minus by T01 is equal to 1 plus eta sigma psi u2 square by Cp. This is equal to P02 by P01 to the power of gamma minus 1 by gamma. So R is equal to 1 plus eta sigma psi u2 square by Cp201 to the power of gamma by gamma minus. This is the expression for pressure ratio. Okay, so here if you see what are the factors that affect R. So gamma depends on the working fluid, Cp also depends on the working fluid, T01 is the atmospheric pressure temperature, and eta efficiency of the impeller, sigma 0.9, psi 1.04, all are almost fixed. So it depends on the speed, okay, U2. U2 depends on diameter or size of the impeller and the RPM, okay. So everything depends on U2. So usually the speeds are restricted by centrifugal forces. Normally 350 meters per second is the with the normal materials, and up to 450 meters per second I can use. So if you can substitute all the values here, some 85% here, 0.9 here, 1.04 here, 1.005 here, some 300 Kelvin here, and U2 if you substitute 350, you can see how much is the pressure ratio I can have with a centrifugal impeller, right? It will come to some 3.5 to 4 or something. Okay, for a single stage centrifugal compressor, we can go up to like that. Okay, this is the formula normally we use. So if I take okay, any questions? Just I am going like that. The blade angle is usually used as beta. That is relative velocity angle or blade angle is the normal notation is beta. Absolute velocity angle we put alpha. Any questions? Okay, now you may have to try to solve the problems, and if you have any difficulty, maybe you can approach me. Is it okay till now? Mahendra, Sai Harsha, Hemant, Rohit, Karthik, Lakshmi Rama. Okay. Shall we stop here? Okay, right. Thank you. All the best. Try, and you can approach me anytime. If you feel comfortable, I will be happy. Thank you. Okay, thank you all.